Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, and welcome to the Karey Carbaugh podcast, episode number 72. Buenas noches, damas y caballeros, chicos y chicas, niños de todas edades, y bienvenidos a el Karey Carbaugh podcast, episodio número 72. Welcome. My name is Karey Carbaugh, and this is the Karey Carbaugh podcast. Tonight's episode is the third in a series of three dealing with addiction. And this came as a request from one of our followers, Karen. I'm not sure if she has seen any of these or not. Hopefully she's catching these on the replay. Though I haven't seen any comments from her. If you are, Karen, drop me a comment and let me know that you're watching these. And for the rest of you, if you would also drop me a comment in the comments and let me know whether you're catching this live or on the replay. Either drop the word live or replay or simply an L or an R in the comments. And let me know where you're calling in from, where you're dialing in from. It's always interesting to me to see where these podcasts are reaching and how far we're reaching people. So if you would, that would be great. And tonight's podcast, the reason I hesitated a bit, I'm actually going to have a bonus section next week. I'll tell you a little bit more about that at the end. My original plan was to do 3 of these on addiction, but I came up with an idea for a 4th one that I think will be very powerful next week. This one I think is also going to be very powerful, so I hope you'll stick with me till the end. I've titled this one 6 Human Needs, and you'll see what I mean as we get into this tonight. I can't take credit for these. These come from a well-known public speaker and personal growth speaker, Tony Robbins. I've had these taught on a number of different classes that I've taken over the years, and I thought that they would be particularly helpful and useful talking about addiction. And as I shared in a couple of the episodes before, or at least in the first episode, I want to be transparent here. I am not a person who has struggled with any major addictions in my life. So I'm not coming at it from that angle, but rather from some truths that I've learned in my own life in making decisions. Last week we talked about some questions that you can ask yourself to determine whether the behavior you're engaged in is an addiction or not, and more specifically whether it's negative. And we may revisit that topic in a future class or a future podcast, talking about negative thoughts. But you can go back and review that one from last week if you'd like to. And the first podcast in this series, I simply laid out some of the framework for addictions and talked a little bit about my views and how I feel that God can forgive addictions, which was one of the questions that Karen had in her request that I do at least one podcast on addiction. And specifically, she was talking about food addictions for the most part. I think she mentioned smoking. But I want to be clear that if you've got a more serious addiction to drugs or alcohol, I encourage you to seek professional help. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a professional. I simply address these topics from the angle of self-esteem. My goal with these podcasts is to help promote self-esteem and positive feelings of self-worth. And I think tonight's podcast will do just exactly that and help you to look at addictions as well as other decisions in your life and how they impact your self-esteem and feelings of self-worth. So let's dive right in here. As I said, there are 6 human needs, basic human needs, that guide pretty much all of our decisions. And so specifically tonight, we're going to look at it from the standpoint of addiction. So if you will allow me, I will read some of my notes off my phone. As I've mentioned on these podcasts before, I am a person with low vision, and so it's difficult for me to have notes that I can just look down at. I need to hold my phone fairly close and have my notes fairly large for me to be able to read them. So if I'm looking down at my phone, that's why. I'm not trying to ignore the camera or ignore you personally. But let's dive in here. The first 4 that we're going to talk about tonight are the basic building blocks for self-esteem or self-worth and basic feelings that all people have. And then the last 2 we'll get into will deal more with signs of spirituality, whether that's Christian spirituality, which happens to be my belief, or some other type of spirituality and spiritual thinking. So the first 4, which most people need to start with, are foundational. They are in pairs, and they somewhat balance each other out. So the first one is certainty. Most people want to feel a certain level of certainty. No pun intended there. Our brains are designed to keep our bodies safe, to keep us safe. And that is where the certainty factor comes in. Most people want a degree of certainty in their life. They want to be certain where their next meal's coming from, where their roof is over their head, a certain level of certainty. But that is juxtaposed to the second one, which is uncertainty or variety. Many people like a certain degree of variety in their lives. If everything is certain, that can lead to boredom or feelings of monotony, mundane. While we want a certain level of this, most of us also crave a certain level of variety or uncertainty. Maybe travel. That's one of the things I do to create variety in my life. Maybe it's taking risks. Financially, maybe you want a certain level of certainty, and so you have some of your finances invested in very secure funds, but you also want to take some risks, perhaps. As we look at addiction, is what you're addicted to, if it's, let's say, chocolates, are you addicted to them because they provide a certain level of certainty? You know what they're going to taste like all the time? Or are they more of an uncertainty? Different types of chocolate, maybe with different things added to them, creates a different level of uncertainty. Or if your addictions are more serious with drugs or alcohol, are those contributing to these feelings of certainty or uncertainty? Trying to unlock my phone here. It just locked up on me. There we go. So the next 2 that we're going to talk about are significance and connection. And these 2 are also somewhat push-pull of each other. Significance. Do you strive for and do you crave significance with other people? Do you want to always be the significant one in a conversation? Significant contributor? Or are you looking more for connection and love? Sorry, I'm reading my notes here. I think I have a typo. Love and connection. And that doesn't necessarily mean love in the erotic sort of way, but it may be love in friendship, making connection with friends or with groups of people. Are you involved in those groups for the connection or for the significance? That's a question you need to ask yourself. If you're involved in addictions, is it to create significance? Or perhaps if it's something like chocolates or sweets, does that provide a sense of love and satisfaction? Maybe you're not finding that connection with other humans and you're seeking that in the form of foods or other substances that you're addicted to. And the last four we're going to talk about here are growth and contribution. These two are the two that are more in the spiritual realm. I've heard it said that everything is either growing or it's dying if it's a living organism. And so this is one of the things that is a human need. The need to grow. Otherwise, you're not growing and you're dying. That may be physical growth, that may be emotional growth, spiritual growth in terms of reading the Bible and learning more. Most of us crave to some degree growth in our lives. This one may not apply as much to addictions, although perhaps it does if you're experimenting, if you're addicted to more and more, stronger and stronger, whatever it is that you're addicted to. It could be a type of growth. And the last one, contribution. Without some of the first four significant building blocks, if you will, contribution is harder to obtain. The contribution is how do you contribute to other people? Do you volunteer? Do you contribute in your job? Perhaps if it's regarding addiction, are you trying to draw other people into it as a form of contribution? Each one of these can be either positive or negative. And I started to hint at that with contribution, but that is true of all six of these. You can either gain the need through a positive action or a negative action. And if it's an addiction, that might be a negative way of fulfilling one of these needs. Most people have two of these six that are prominent things that they focus on, prominent needs that they focus on. What is that for you? What are your top two needs that you focus on? Once again, let's review. The six needs that we have are certainty and uncertainty, or variety. Those are the first two. The second two are significance and contribution, or love and contribution. Those are the four building blocks. The last two that are more spiritual are growth and contribution. So what is it for you? What are the top two that drive your decisions? And if you're specifically watching this tonight regarding addictions, What are the two that draw you to making the decisions that you make about your addictions? If you're comfortable dropping those in the comments, I will try to respond to those either here live. I see there's a couple of comments here, or I will follow this on the replay. And as people are watching this on the replay, I will respond as people comment on the replay. I do see Teresa. Welcome, Teresa. I'm glad you're joining me tonight live, and I hope you're finding value from this. For all of you, if you're getting value from this, if you can relate to any of this, if you would drop the word value in the comments or a V, that would be very helpful. And if you can relate to any of this, drop me the word relate to let me know that you're relating to some of what I'm sharing here. Looks like Teresa put another message here. I'm trying to get to it here, Teresa. Oh, I think this is actually a message that Facebook is popping up. I don't think this is something that Teresa put in here. But yes, I thank you, Teresa, for tuning in, as well as any of you others that are tuning in live. Again, if you would let me know if you're getting value from this topic. And next week, I'm going to focus specifically on one of the questions that was in Karen's post, or Karen's question to me, and that is, can God forgive us of our addictions? And I will explore that. I've got a personal story that I will share next week. Little spoiler alert there. I won't share the story now because that's next week's topic. But as we bring this in for a landing, I do hope you've enjoyed this topic. I hope you've gotten value from it. Let me know that in the comments if you would. Smash that like button, like if you do, and leave me a comment. That helps show this to other people so that more people will see these podcasts. So with that, I think I've taken enough of your evening. I appreciate you joining me, whether live or on the replay. Let me know that in the comments if you're catching this live or a replay. And I will look forward to jumping on here next week. I am hoping to be on Wednesday at my somewhat later time, somewhat normal. After next week, my Wednesday commitment is going to be shifting, and so I will be back to my original time. At least that's my current plan. But for next week, I will have the later time for one more week. I'm glad you got value from this, Teresa. Thank you so much for letting me know. And if you have comments or questions, if you'd like to see other topics, let me know that. And if you have specific addictions you'd like to discuss, you can either, if you're comfortable, dropping those in the chat, or you can message me personally. If you'd like to be added to my email list, because I'm going to start doing some more private classes and topics like this, drop the word email in the comments, and I will reach out privately to get your email address, or you can direct message me with your email address, and I will keep those private. So with that, this has been the Karey Carbaugh podcast. My name is Karey Carbaugh, and I appreciate you joining me. I appreciate all of those of you who have supported me through these 72 podcasts. Until next week, make it a great week. Be a blessing to those that you come in contact with. And have a blessed evening or day, depending on when you're watching this. Goodbye for now.